Hello and welcome to the video lecture on concurrency control techniques. So first of all, we've explained what's going on with concurrency control. Now we have to figure out what we're going to do about it. So one technique is what's known as serializability, which basically means that transactions have to run in a serial fashion. That means one transaction finishes before the next transaction can start. Another way, which is very, very similar, is what's known as putting locking mechanisms in place. This is the most common way of achieving serialization. Data that's retrieved for the purpose of updating is locked for the updater, and no other user can perform an update until the data is unlocked. So let's take a look at what that looks like with an example. So here's an update with locking, and here's John and Marcia again. They both request their account balance. And as soon as John requests his account balance, the lock is put on the account balance. So when Marcia requests her account balance, here it's not necessarily denied, but it's suspended. So she's basically put into a looping waiting for John's lock to be released. So John goes through, processes his transaction, which draws his $200. The account balance is $800. And then, as soon as he's done with his transaction, then suddenly Marcia is able to perform her transaction. So as far as Marcia is concerned, it would basically just sit and wait, and it would look like there's some kind of delay. It would look like the machine is locked up. You could provide her with an error message, something along those lines. So this locking would prevent the lost update problem. So various locking mechanisms are in place. There are different levels of locking. You can lock the entire database, which is typically used for updates and backup and recovery purposes. You can lock a particular table. Again, that can be used for bulk updates, or if you're doing your hot backups where you're just backing up pieces of the database at a time, you can use that level of locking. You can lock a block or a page, which is very commonly used, which is a set of records, usually or typically 8 kilobytes in size is a typical block or page. You can lock a particular record, as was done with the John and Marcia, as far as their account balance record was concerned. Again, fairly commonly used. And you can actually lock a particular field within a record. Again, that's going to require significant overhead, and it's pretty much impractical. And then there are really two types of locks. Again, this is not exhaustive. This is an overview. But there are basically two kinds of locks. There's a shared lock, where both people can read, but nobody can update. So if you've got a shared lock in place, people can't do updates. So if John and Marcia had both had shared locks on the account balance, neither one of them would be able to update until one of them received what's known as an exclusive lock, which would exclude anyone else from anything, from doing anything until the lock was released. Then what can happen, and something that has to be defended against in database management system, is what's known as the deadlock. So John and Marcia again try to produce their transaction. So John places a read lock and he checks his balance. Marcia also places a read lock and checks her balance, and now they both have read locks. So John requests a write lock, and then Marcia requests a write lock. And they're both denied, and they're both stuck waiting and looping. So there has to be a way to get out of that deadlock. And literally, what happens is you can either prevent it. You can't, maybe you don't give the shared lock, or you kill any other locks that are associated with an account before the transaction starts. You can have a two-phase locking protocol. There's a growing phase and a shrinking phase. And it may be difficult to determine if all the needed resources are available in advance, which makes deadlock prevention tough from that. So then we come to the realization that a deadlock is going to occur and does occur. So you're allowing them to occur, and then what you do is you put a mechanism in place for detecting and breaking them. For all intents and purposes, killing someone's session. In previous example, you would kill Marcia's session so that John could continue with his locking. And that is the end of the video lecture on concurrency control techniques.